All right, we're gonna be live in a second here. I'm just getting the other stream up and running. In the meantime, though, we're gonna be talking today about downplaying your experience, and we're almost ready to go. Just going to have some trouble here. Of course not. There we go. All right, there we go. So we're going to be talking about downplaying your experience. And so we're going to get going right away. We're going to get going right away. But before we do, make sure that you check out the show on all major podcast platforms. Make sure that you are following me on all social media platforms to make sure that you're getting deeper into these insights. And if you haven't checked out the show before, the goal of this show is to help athletes reach higher level versions of themselves, help athletes reach new heights in their athletic careers. And so what we're going to talk about today is downplaying your experience. So we're going to get into the show here in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Elite Development Podcast, the #1 show for athletes looking to gain an edge on their opponents and build their dream careers in sport. I'm your host, Kenny Dusseault, and today we're talking about downplaying your experience. Now, what do I mean when I talk about downplaying your experience? So I'm going to get into a little bit of a personal story about me, and then we're going to get into exactly what, the goal of this episode is, and exactly what you can do to make sure that you are taking advantage of what we're talking about today. So I posted something about this earlier today, and I'll get into the details of that. So basically, for a very long time in my career, I felt like I really wanted to make an impact. I wanted to change lives. I wanted to change the way that athletes viewed strength and conditioning. And the only problem is I never felt worthy of being able to do that. I never felt like someone who had the ability to change the industry, as somebody who had the ability to, truly make a deep impact. And, that went on for a pretty long time. I've been coaching since I was in high school. And for the longest time, I always wanted it. I just never really realized that I could do it. I never really felt like I could do it. So as I coached longer and longer, I found myself always saying things like, well, yeah, we're doing well, but we're not doing as well as these other guys. And I always had this mentality that like, well, why would anybody listen to what I had to say? Why would anyone care about my experiences when there are people that are more talented, or people that have been doing this longer, or people that are more well known, or people that are in better positions than I am? Why would anyone care about what I have to say? And it wasn't until honestly the last year that I really started to think about how fucking stupid that is. Because even now, I've been coaching for 15 years. Even now, there are people with way more experience than me. There are people with way more certifications than me. There are people who know way more than I do. But that doesn't mean that I don't know anything. And so by downplaying my experiences and by always talking about like, oh yeah, it's not that good anyway. Oh yeah, there's always more I could do. Oh yeah, it's cool that I've done this, but haven't done anywhere near as much as this guy or that guy. What I was doing was essentially telling myself, and by association, telling other people that the information I had was useless. And so when you tell yourself that, when you put yourself in that position to believe that the information you have isn't good, what starts to happen? Well, you start to downplay your experience more. And in turn, you start to believe that you are not fucking useful in the space that you're in. And that's exactly what I believed for a long time. I had some athletes getting really good results, but I always felt like, well, other people have more athletes that are getting better results. So, what do I know? And then I realized about probably a year and a half ago, that just because you're not at the top of the game, it doesn't mean you don't know some stuff. And so I started being more vocal about the experiences that I've had. I've started being more vocal about my opinions on things in the strength and conditioning industry. I started being more vocal about the results that I was achieving with my athletes. And what started to happen? more people started to get drawn to my social media accounts. More people started reaching out about wanting to work with me. More people started getting better results once they started working with me. Basically, every area of my career started improving. And what was the one shift? The one shift was that I stopped saying shit like, well, I'm not that good anyway, and started embracing that even if I'm not at the top of the game, I know some shit that can be valuable to a lot of people. And this is something I see a lot of athletes do every day. Before I get into that part, I want to reinforce this is not me saying that my experience is more valuable than this person's experience or that person's experience. This is not me trying to say that I don't have any more to learn. Of course I do. I educate myself every single fucking day still. But this is just me saying that what I started to do is I started to embrace the fact that not being at the top of the game does not mean you need to shut the fuck up, keep to yourself, and wait. Not being at the top of the game means that you have come from the bottom. You have come from the beginning points. So stop downplaying that and start stepping into that and understand that the information that I had was still valuable to a lot of people. And what did that do? That started to propel me further forward in my career. It started to make things go really well for me. And so this is what I want to talk about in terms of so many athletes out there that I speak to on a daily basis. So many of you guys are so stuck in what you haven't done that you forget about what you have done. You're so stuck in the fact that you're not a UFC champion yet that you forget that you're 10 fights into a professional MMA career. You're so stuck in the fact that you lost a fight one time that you forget that you've won 10 fights. And so what you start to do is you start to put this image in your head of someone who hasn't done that much anyway, or who hasn't gone that far anyway, who isn't that big of a deal anyway. And what does that lead you? That leads you to putting that energy into your training. That leads you to putting that energy into your life. That leads you to putting that energy into everything you're doing. And in turn, because that energy that you're putting out is that you're not that big a deal, or you haven't made it that far, or you haven't done that much, you continue to stay at that fucking level. So what I want you to do is think back on your career right now. Take a second, pause the episode if you need to. Think back on your career right now. Think about where you were at 5 years ago. I'm thinking of one particular athlete of mine. Right now, he's a 3-1 pro MMA fighter. 5 years ago, he was not taking his career seriously. He was still an amateur. He was fighting, but, kind of doing it because it was fun. And he wanted a career in the sport, but wasn't putting the action into actually taking it seriously and developing a career in the sport. Now, 5 years later, this same dude got voted into the top 10 prospects in Canada in the sport of MMA. He finished last year with 3 wins out of 3 fights. He's got eyes on him from bigger promotions. He's on his way to making this dream a reality just 5 years later. That's a big fucking deal. Now, day to day, it's easy to forget that stuff. I look back at that for myself too. 5 years ago, I moved to Calgary. Well, actually almost 6 years ago now. 5.5 years ago, I moved to Calgary. I was broke. I was alone. I was scared. I was supremely not confident in myself. I was moving into a job that was paying me nothing. I was working every single day and basically making no money. I had no idea who the fuck I was, where the fuck I was headed, or anything like that. 5 years later, I'm running my own business. I have a podcast with over 240 episodes out. I am working with athletes. I've worked with athletes in 9 different countries around the world. I'm traveling next month across the world to a conference in Australia. I own my own gym, which is something I've wanted since I was 13 years old. That change in 5 years is astronomical. But because I'm not, at the top of the top of the top, there's something in my brain that's always telling me, oh, just keep to yourself and keep working, not thinking, hey, share your experiences, talk about them, help other people understand them, and in turn, gain more of them. help more people, make more impact, all these things that you want to do. And this is what I see with so many athletes out there. You guys talk to yourselves so negatively, oh, I haven't done enough yet. Oh, I should be further. Oh, I should be working harder. Oh, I should be doing this. Oh, I should be doing that, whatever it might be. And you forget that you've made astronomical changes in your life. You forget that you're pursuing something that 99% of athletes in the world only ever get to fucking dream of. You forget all these things because you get so caught up in the day-to-day, so caught up in the things you haven't done yet, that you forget all the things you have done. So if you can look back on your career and you could pick out 3 things from the last 5 years that you're proud of and start to step into that. Start to step into the fact that, no, you're not at the top. You're not where you want to be, but you've come really fucking far. No, you're not at the top. You're not where you want to be, but you're way fucking further than you were a year ago. You're way fucking better than you were a year ago. You're way fucking better than you were 5 years ago. So instead of focusing on what you don't have and sitting and being sad and upset and angry, start focusing on how far you've come and understand that the experience you have now is going to be what allows you to 5x that progress, 10x that progress over the next 5 years. If you've made it, however far you've made it now, you have more knowledge, you have more experience, you have more ability to streamline that process and to make it further and further and further faster moving forward in your career. So stop looking at where you're at as a negative thing and start looking at the fact that where you're at right now in your career is your fucking superpower. Where you're at right now in your career is what's going to allow you to propel yourself forward. But only if you understand that that is your superpower. Only if you understand that the knowledge and experience you've gained are useful. Stop looking at them as not enough and start looking at the knowledge and experience you've gained in your career as what is going to allow you to push to the next level. What is going to allow you to get uncomfortable again, put yourself out there, put yourself in those positions, and rise to the occasion. You're better than what you are telling yourself. You've done more than what you're telling yourself. So keep that hunger, keep that mentality that you want to go further, that you want to do more, that you're not where you want to be yet. But also understand the fact that you are further than 99% of athletes out there. You are further than you were a year ago. You are further along in your career than so many others ever get to be. And that is what's going to allow you to get even further. That is what's going to allow you to achieve the goals you have. But it starts with you. It starts with how you speak to yourself in the mirror. It starts with how you look and how you look at yourself, how you view your career. If you view what you've done as negative, you're going to put negative ass energy out into the world. And in turn, you're not going to continue to push yourself further. If you view what you've done and how far you've come as a positive thing, if you take the lessons from it, understand the benefits of how far you've come in your career, that's going to start to push you further because you're going to be able to take those experiences and use them at the next level. Reframe the way you think about yourself. Reframe the way you speak to yourself and start seeing drastic levels of success in your career. So that is it. That is all. I appreciate those who took the time to tune in. As always, my one ask of you guys is that if you have listened to the show before, share it with a friend, share it with a teammate, share it with a coach, share it with someone you know is going to benefit from this message so that we can continue to put this message further out there, help more athletes, and in turn, start leveling you guys up so you can build that dream career you're after. So I appreciate you all. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll talk again soon.